Singapore. I'm Hindol Sengupta. Always a real pleasure to get General Hooda on this conversation platform. I have always enjoyed my conversations with the General because his observations are extremely astute about the real life situations that impact our national security. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Pleasure, Hindol. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
I want to begin, General, by asking the question that has really, bothered me throughout this entire Operation Sindoor, which in fact is still continuing. The fact that India, no matter what Pakistan says about how many planes are downed and this, that, and the other, the
Mhm.
fact that India hit deep inside Punjab, this was not POK, this was not even the border areas of mainland Pakistan. This was deep inside Punjab at the very heart of Pakistan's, power center and hit it repeatedly in 11 places. In that sense, has this ever happened before? Because I don't think it has. And if not, doesn't this change the dimension of this conflict for the future?
So, Hindol, you're absolutely right. It has not happened before, except in the 1971 war. Even during the Kargil war, the battle was restricted to just the Ladakh region and didn't spread at all towards the international border. Uh, what has happened now is actually a new paradigm in how India thinks it's going to deal with terrorism from Pakistan. The fact, as you mentioned, the heartland of Pakistan, Punjab, was struck. The fact that we struck the headquarters of Lashkar and Jaish at Muridke and Bahawalpur, I think was sending a very, very strong signal that any future response to terrorism is going to be hard, and we are not going to restrict it merely to what I call the foot soldier, that you eliminate some terrorists. We are going to hit at the leadership, and we are going to hit at those who are behind, this whole issue of terrorism emanating from Pakistan. And so we are willing to escalate it and even take it geographically to critical areas like Punjab. And also, if it means a direct involvement with the Pakistan military, that is acceptable to us. So obviously, this has set some new standards, new paradigms in how we are going to deal with this problem in the future.
I also want to ask you, as always, I sometimes feel that when, Pakistani representatives are speaking, there is a bit of a bluster. They're not just speaking facts. There's a bit of a bluster. I heard some people talk about how, you know, even if India destroys the whole of Pakistan, they will destroy us and this, that, and the other. But in real terms, sir, in fact, even in a second strike situation, the Pakistanis might find it difficult to reach large parts of India, including Western and Southern India. Isn't that correct?
No, no, that's absolutely correct. And also, much of this is aimed at one their own domestic audience. That look, here is the Pak military, which is the savior of Pakistan, savior of Pakistan's ideology, the only force in South Asia that can stand up to what they call Indian hegemony, the only force that is providing strategic stability. I mean, these are the words that they use in South Asia. But I think they clearly understand that, as far as conventional military capability is concerned, India is far superior to them. And so they have this idea of showing irrationality, quickly talking about the nuclear, sort of weapons and nuclear forces. But while they might be irrational, I think they're not stupid that they would indulge in a conflict which would lead Pakistan to ruins.
Other thing, of course, is that a lot of people don't factor this in conversations, and Pakistanis, of course, know it. But perhaps Indians should also know, sir, a large part of the, in a sense, the economic, political, and military command and control center of Pakistan is actually built on planes, and it's relatively easier to access. Whereas, India's sheer geographic dimensions make it far more difficult to target in quite the same way. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. So we saw the minute targets around Islamabad, Rawalpindi were hit. the air bases that were hit, Sargodha, Chaklala, etc. I mean, the kind of panic that is spread within the Pakistani establishment. And I think that was one of the main reasons why then they went sort of to the US and the other countries, to try and say this could escalate and therefore please intervene to do something about it. So as compared to India, which is, I mean, geographically so widespread, you have critical targets mostly actually within Punjab itself. And so vulnerabilities are much more as far as Pakistan is concerned, which is also one reason, Hindol, why they keep talking about, Afghanistan providing them strategic depth, because they know their geographical vulnerabilities.
Their strategy in this particular conflict, in some cases around the world, has been described as escalate to de escalate. Now, this is a phraseology many of us learnt in terms of nuclear theory when we were in college. Talk to me a little bit about what you make of this theorizing.
I think what India is trying to say is that in response to terror actions, in response to major terror incidents, we are willing to climb up the escalation ladder, which means we are willing to use conventional forces to respond to terror attacks. And we are going to use these conventional forces within Pakistan, which means even if it, as I said, turns out to be a limited sort of conventional conflict, we are willing to take that step. And so that is when we are talking about, the willingness to escalate. And I think the strategic thinking is that uh, the cost to Pakistan in such a limited conflict is going to be so high that ultimately they are going to ask for de-escalation of the crisis. Now, whether it exactly plays out in such neat ways, Hindol, we don't know. Because it's not always that you can sort of control escalation. In this case, it was. But I think the whole idea is that look, we are willing to take that extra step. We are willing to accept some risks in the use of military forces in order to, you know, ensure that Pakistan pays a higher price. Otherwise, Hindol, they've been just using this very low cost option, keep sending proxies, keep sending jihadis across the border, while their own military is almost completely shielded. And I think this is what India is saying, that, look, the government behind terror attacks, uh, the Pakistan army, which is behind terror attacks, will also be hit. And I think that's what Prime Minister Modi said.
There's a very important point you're making, because this is again something I don't think is quickly understood, that by using these proxies, the Pakistani army has for a long, long time shielded itself from any real damage. Even if you capture the terrorists, even if the terrorists get killed, even if a terrorist camp is hit, in fact, actually it's no water off the Pakistani army. It's only, water off the Pakistani army's back, so to speak. They don't really
Hmm.
lose anything apart from some money, maybe. But it's only when the chickens come home to roost, so to speak, that's when the real change of behavior, of course we don't know, might happen. Would that be correct in in a nutshell?
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And all. See, the thing with Pakistan was that they were using these proxies as the main weapon for a fight against India, uh, while not exposing their military at all to any conflict. And I think some of our actions, while important, I would, sort of turn them as tactical. What we did in 2016, hitting terror camps, 2019, again hitting terror camps. Uh, this paradigm has now shifted with Operation Sindoor, because the widespread nature of the strikes, thereafter escalating into attacks against military infrastructure. That is what India is now saying, is that we are willing to take that extra step, which is going to hurt the Pakistan army, and more importantly, its reputation directly.
Talk to me a little bit about, what the Pakistani army might, in your opinion, might be considering at this point in time. I understand this is the hypothetical question, but it would be interesting to try and understand from you how they might see the damages as have occurred in and during Operation Sindoor.
So, Hindol, I think you know you could look at it with two perspectives. The first is to their own domestic audience. They are going to say, "Look, we have stood up to what was India's aggression against our soil. We have responded. We have caused them damage. They are going to make a big hype about the aircraft that was shot down, and so try and get the country behind the military to say." Uh, your military has responded sort of adequately, uh, and that's sort of going to play out in the information space. But I think practically, when they view their losses, practically when they see the kind of damage that can be caused by Indian military, the Indian Air Force has caused very extensive damage to their Air Force infrastructure. I think they will be a little cautious about, at least in the short term, attempting anything, that could trigger a response from India. I think they're also aware that there are going to be huge economic costs to any conflict with India. They were fortunate enough that they were able to swing the IMF loan, but if instability continues, this kind of support that they're getting from international organizations, from other countries to prop up their economy is no longer going to be available. So I think these are things that they will introspect. And as I said, so in the immediate future, I don't see them doing anything provocative. Hopefully, again, Hindol, this is, it's very difficult to understand their thinking in the Pakistan Army leadership. Uh, but I would think they would try and sort of keep a check, at least for now.
Let's talk a little bit about the learnings from our side. One of the things that people have, of course, commented on is number one, what kind of aircraft did we really lose? And the second thing connected to that is the strength of Chinese weaponry, the J-10 aircraft, the P-15 missile, and, the showcase in some senses of the kind of weapons China has been providing Pakistan. Now, all of this was debated and considered in different writings and analysis for a long time, but we actually got a showcase of what's really going on. Talk to me about how you see that and what would be the lessons from the Indian side in this showcase.
Look, and all we know that increasingly Pakistan is dependent on Chinese weapons and equipment. In fact, today, 81% almost of Pakistan's equipment is of Chinese origin. And those days of when we used to say, look, Chinese weapons are not sophisticated, etc., those days are gone and all. So you are seeing increasing sophistication uh, in the Chinese military, in the PLA. And so some of the systems that you've talked about, the J-10 aircraft, uh, the air-to-air missiles, uh, long-range artillery, new sort of battleships and cruisers that are coming, new submarines of Chinese origin that are coming. These are fairly sophisticated equipment, and so we should not, sort of underrate our adversary. Uh, should we be worried? I think we should, just take stock and see how is it that we need to counter, these technologies that Pakistan had. Uh, Despite all this, Hindol, we should also know that Pakistan's official military budget, the unofficial could be slightly higher, is just about 1/10 of the Indian military budget. So it isn't as if by merely by getting some Chinese equipment, they are going to be in a place where they can achieve sort of conventional superiority. Uh, I also think, Hindol, the international media made much of the downing of some of the Indian aircraft that took place. Look, this is a conflict situation. Casualties and damages will happen. This is an accepted, part of when you enter the battlefield. Hoping nothing will happen to us, I mean, it's just completely impractical. So coming back, the international media, I think, made too much out of, the initial few losses that the Indian Air Force had. Uh, if you look at, the 4-day conflict, the fact that the Indian Air Force was able to strike very deep into Pakistan, evade their air defenses, uh, and cause significant damage to Pakistan Air Force infrastructure, uh, would suggest that it's not as if India is sort of completely outmatched because Pakistan has a few Chinese aircraft. So I would say we need to look at this without exaggerating one side or the other side. I also say, was the conflict long enough to actually assess the performance of weapons on both sides? Uh, Ultimately, on 6th, 7th, you had one aerial battle. And then on the 9th, 10th, we had the Indian strike on Pakistan, after which a ceasefire was called. Uh, I think it's not sufficient time to make an accurate assessment and say, this system is far superior, etc.
Let me ask you then, do you think it ended too quickly? Now, of course, morally, of course, no war can end quickly enough. But in terms of really establishing superiority or even a sort of conventional deterrence of some sort, and enhancing that, because, the questions were being asked about the quality of India's deterrence, both nuclear and conventional, even before this conflict happened. So, do you think it ended, a bit too quickly for all of this to really pan out, especially to India's advantage? Because some people at least are saying that, look, India was just beginning to showcase its vast superiority, and had it lasted for a little longer, a lot more could have been established.
So, Hindol, let me answer this in this way. Look, all military action that is taken has a political objective behind it. So military operations are not sort of carried out in isolation that, just go and cause destruction to the other side. Uh, the political leadership lays out clearly, these are the objectives that we wish to achieve. And I think we need to study those a little in detail. What were India's political objectives when it started Operation Sindoor? And clearly, the political objectives were to send a strong signal to Pakistan that if you indulge in terrorism, we are going to take decisive and strong action against you. And so, if you saw after the initial strikes on the terror camps that was carried out, uh, the foreign secretary, if you look at his remarks, he said our response was measured, it was non escalatory, we did not hit any military targets, and we will respond only if Pakistan does something. So I think right from the beginning, the sense I got now, uh, whether this political objective was right or wrong is different. Uh, but this was a clear political objective given to the military, that carry out the strike, and that India doesn't want to escalate unless Pakistan does. And so the response subsequently also was primarily in retaliation to Pakistan attempting to hit civilian and military targets. Uh, and so when Pakistan sort of appealed for ceasefire, I think India felt that, look, we have been able to achieve what we set out to do. We have been able to achieve our objectives, and therefore there is really no need to carry this forward. Would this action completely deter Pakistan? And I'm not so sure about that. As I said, in the short term, perhaps. In the long term, I think deterrence will come not only and merely from military action, but also from diplomatic steps, political steps. and some of those have been taken. And it's Hindol. It's going to be a long haul. And my final point is, I know a lot of people are saying, why is it we should have taken Pakistan occupied Kashmir? Look, war has horrific costs, and as a country that is looking to improve its diplomatic stature, its economic potential, bring up people who are in poverty. Would war have been a full-scale war with Pakistan have been the best option for us? Um, it's often said in a democracy, the generals are the most peaceful of people, and and they say that because, frankly, we have seen the horrors of conflict and the cost that it incurs.
No,
So
in fact,
I would say,
General Naravane's comments during the conflict also, when he said that, we shouldn't take the point of war lightly. You're absolutely right.
yeah, yeah.
You know, uh,
So I think the government felt that we have achieved our objective, and therefore there is no need to sort of continue this conflict anymore. Now, in hindsight, we could say, was this right or was this wrong? But as I said, the political objectives were clear, and so they went with that.
talk a little bit about another concern, which is the kind of drones that Turkey would have supplied Pakistan. Now, this question of drones has come up again and again ever since we saw swarm drones in action on the skies, on Israeli skies, so to speak. And, I myself from Global Order Platform have done interviews about it, on how capable India is and so on and so forth. Now, it did seem that India is quite capable, the Akash system, all of that seem to keep us safe. But to talk to me a little bit about, drones as a new frontier, so to speak, and Turkey being one of the great suppliers to Pakistan. How do you see that relationship? Of course, India's relationship with Turkey is going through an all-time low at the moment, but how do you see that axis, so to speak?
Look, so two things. I think not only Israel talked about Israel, but we saw it earlier in Armenia-Azerbaijan war. Uh, we are seeing extensive use of drones in the Ukraine war. So drones, in some ways, have become central to future war fighting. And so you're going to use them and see them used for surveillance, for reconnaissance, for kinetic attacks. Uh, Now, even for things like mine laying, logistics. So they have become key to fighting future wars. And I think what we saw in Operation Sindoor was merely, a small part of it, frankly. Although there is a lot of talk about, 300, 400 drones having come in. But from what we know now, a lot of them were dummies. A lot of them were not armed at all. Uh, but the employment of drones is going to increase in the future. So we need to look at how we can induct them into our military at a faster pace. We need to look at what our manned unmanned pairing will be. A lot of people are looking at unmanned systems, drones being paired with manned systems. We'll have to look at counter drone technology that needs to come in, and also, frankly, ramp up our production capacity. Ukraine is talking about procuring 1 million drones in a year. Russians are talking about we are going to buy 2 million drones. That is the nature and scale of drone warfare. And Turkey is known to be one of the leading sort of suppliers of high-end drones. On our relationship with Turkey, you know, uh, I don't know why some of us are acting surprised. Turkey and Pakistan historically have had a very close relationship. They have continuously, even prior to this, supported Pakistan on the Kashmir issue quite openly and vocally. They have a very strong military to military relationship with Pakistan. So to me, frankly, it's no surprise that Turkey has actually come out in support of Pakistan in this case.
Were you surprised by the American intervention, though, and especially what at least some in the Western press are calling a recoupling, in at least notionally, in the comments made by President Donald Trump about India and Pakistan? Does that worry you?
So, Hindol, there is with President Trump, there are no surprises, frankly. So when the conflict started, it was like a hands-off, completely hands-off approach. These two countries will sort it out themselves, and that we don't need to get involved. I think where the involvement became more serious. My own feeling is that Pakistanis, again, as they tend to do, flash the nuclear card. Indian strikes are very close to our strategic targets, to our strategic assets. Uh, this could be a deliberate way of taking out some of our strategic assets by India. And that would be, a real sharp climb in the escalation ladder. And this could, reach the nuclear sort of domain, which is why I think, the US stepped in very quickly to try and tell both countries to de-escalate. Uh, I think also what has happened in the public statements that have been made uh, by leaders in the Trump administration about negotiations will happen in neutral countries, everything will get discussed. I think in some ways sort of soured also India-US ties. On the question of sort of rehyphenation, and everyone is talking about rehyphenation, and all the reality is if there is a potential conflict between India and Pakistan, if somebody negotiates, obviously there is going to be a hyphenation because the conflict is between India and Pakistan. Does that mean Pakistan occupies sort of equal space in diplomatic circles as far as India is concerned, or in the economic space? No, it doesn't mean that countries are now going to treat India and Pakistan equally. I mean, there is absolutely, if you look at national power, prestige, diplomatic heft, I think India still stands in its own place. So there is no automatic equality in dealings with the two countries. Yes, a certain hyphenation has taken place.
I want to know, as we close this conversation, ask you two last questions. One question, again, a domain that you know very, very intimately. We've stopped talking about this, General, but it really concerned me and continues to worry me. News came right after the Pahalgaon terror attack, those dastardly terror attacks, that 11 locals had been arrested, and they were being interrogated to see how those people traversed nearly 400 kilometers from the border and reached Pahalgaon. This seems impossible without considerable local help. Now, considering till last year we were celebrating 1.6 million tourists going in and so on and so forth, this seemed incongruous to many people. Could you throw some light on what kind of local support uh, continues in parts of Kashmir, which could, God forbid, allow this to happen again?
So, Indol, a certain level of local support through what we call overground workers has always been a reality. Uh, I think it would be wrong to say that there is absolutely no local support to these terrorists who come inside. Otherwise, how are they able to survive for so long? In some case, for months. In some case, for more than a year. So there is an element of local support that is there. However, we should also not make the mistake of saying, uh, look, all Muslims in Kashmir are supporting terrorism. That would also be wrong. We have seen after the Pahalgam incident an outpouring of people coming out, Kashmiris coming out on the streets
Right.
against terrorism. This is a sentiment that we need to strengthen. Uh, and I also, Handol, at this point want to say and I have said this and written about it. We need to sort of relook our metrics for gauging success. Uh, what constitutes success in Jammu and Kashmir? Is it merely the number of terrorists we have killed? Is it merely the number of violent incidents? Is it merely the number of tourists? Or, and these are important, or do we look beyond this and say, look, how do we tackle radicalization? How do we reduce local support to terrorism? And that requires a more nuanced approach, requires a more sort of people-centric approach. So I think a combination of everything that would help us bring long-term normalcy in Jammu and Kashmir is what we should be focusing on.
Is it time that we reconsider the defense budget, General?
So Hindol, I'm a military officer, so so the answer is going to be quite obvious. But I say this also with responsibility. I understand that India needs money for development, for uplifting its people, for education, for health, etc. But I think there is also we must also have a realistic understanding of the kind of adversaries that we are facing. We've already seen an extended standoff with China that went on for almost 4.5 years and really led to additional deployment of forces, additional money being spent for infrastructure, etc. And we've always had a hostile Pakistan, and we've seen what's happened here. So I think we need to take a realistic look. And you also mentioned about the new kind of weaponry, etc., that is being acquired by our people. So we need a realistic look at whether this 1.5% of GDP is sufficient to meet our future defense requirements, defense needs. My suggestion on this, Hindol, would also be, look, let's not look at a percentage of GDP, right? Let the military makes a 10-year long-term perspective plan and says over the next 10 years, we need this kind of equipment. The government should just say, we approve this and we will fund this. Right now, whatever money it takes, whether it's 1.5 or 2%, but we are spending money according to a long-term capability development plan. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. So the money is just allocated each year, and then the forces are told, look, here is the money, now you do what you have to do with it. And so we are not doing it as per a plan. If we do that, I think budgeting would become sort of more efficient. It would also help over the next 5-10 years build up the kind of capabilities and capacities we need.
Very much wise words of counsel indeed, General. Thanks very much. As always, an extremely learning process in having a conversation about security issues with you. I thank you for your time.
Pleasure, Hindol, always a pleasure. All the best.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.